All right. Good morning. It's raining. We're here. We're smiling. We're at the Crystal Clear Point Studios. I'm raring to go. And you know what just occurred to me? I am drinking my protein shake while we're doing our show. And you know what that reminds me of? I just got to talk about this for a few minutes. Remember, Luann, when we had the Spiritual Neighborhood Network? Luann and I used to do a podcast during COVID. She came in as a new co-host. We'd started with another group, and then she came in and took a lady's place because she moved. And I had that up on a channel, and I accidentally deleted the channel a couple of years ago. And we had interviewed all these different people that were holistic healers and all kinds of modalities. It was really a fun time. And then we had a thing called Tipsy Techno Tuesdays, where it was just the three co-hosts. And we'd bring our drinks. And I used to mix my protein shake with Kahlua. It was great. But the reason I even thought about that is I was able to recover 115 of those videos the past
Nice.
2 weeks. And I put them up on our Miles of Smiles YouTube channel as archives. And we are already, people are watching those things like mad, and we're getting new subscribers because of those videos. So I'm glad I did that. But I'm
Yeah,
going to tell you, it was like trying to chase a monkey through a tree, getting those things downloaded.
I can
And
imagine.
I only recovered about 75% of them. So anyway, trip down memory lane for me because I'm old. All right.
Well,
So we
I would
have,
definitely hey, listen, I would definitely start featuring, just putting them up there on YouTube or, or your TikTok or whatever else like that, because, sometimes those things that you do interviews and so on and so forth, it's exactly what people need right now.
well,
So,
I'm going to have to go through and look at each one. And because like I did, all I did was give a generic description to all of them. I
mm,
put them on a playlist called the Spiritual Neighborhood Archives, or repost is what I called it. But I was just kind of scrolling through that, and like one of them had 10 watches. I mean, I just put it up yesterday, 10
yeah.
watches. You know, some had two, some had one, but one had 15. And you're like, wow, okay. So anyway, Luann Morris is with us with Ancients Apothecary, and Dr. Matthew Pierce with Metaphysical Events. And oh, damn, what's the new business?
Connections Design Studios.
I always want to say Design Connections. I think you got those
Well,
in reverse.
well, I mean, it works both ways. So,
It does. And so we are talking today. What are we talking about today? I forgot. We discussed so many options. I forgot which one we
What
picked.
do you do to help calm yourself down?
Is drinking an option?
well,
Sure.
for some people it is.
Yeah, it's not for me. It
Mhm.
makes me wild. I get wild.
Well, there is a
I
song
mean,
out there that says tequila makes your clothes fall off.
They do.
yeah,
And
but unfortunately,
vodka,
that's just the truth. That's not really a coping mechanism.
vodka does the same thing. Enough rum will get you there eventually.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, for me, tequila, you give me some tequila. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the pole dancer
Fine.
definitely does come out in me with some tequila.
As long as you don't pull that rabbit suit back out. I don't think I could take that.
That's one of my favorite gigs, it really
That's a
is.
really tall rabbit.
It is. It reminds me of what was that Donnie Darko with that creepy rabbit in the movie? Whoa.
Yes, yes.
My kids loved that movie, and they were like teenagers, and they made me watch that movie, and I'm like, what is wrong with you? Why are we watching this? I did not have a coping skill for that movie.
But here's the thing, okay, and it fits directly in with our topic, how do you calm yourself? I have friends that are just horror buffs. I mean, they love horror. Now, personally, I don't like horror just because I've lived my life in fear of something somewhere, whatever else like that. So I don't feel like that I need to put more, being afraid in my life.
Well, wait a minute.
Um,
Define horror. Define horror, because to me, there's two specific genres of horror,
well, I
and
mean,
one
there's
I like
actually
and
there's
one I
more.
don't.
I mean, there's the psychedelic thrillers, I'm gonna say, more like um Alfred Hitchcock is more psychological.
Oh, I
Okay.
love those.
And then
Yeah,
you
I
have
like
the,
those.
hack and slash,
Yeah, I
which
don't
is
I
like.
don't
more
like those.
bloody gore, so on and so forth. But then you have like the I don't know what they call it, but it's a kind of a crossover between the two, where it just completely messes with your head. But usually the consequences is blood and gore. You have the God, it, it's another one, the suspense thrillers, where like for example, Bram Stoker's Dracula it was what comes to mind is that you don't know
I
who the
love it.
enemy is until the very, 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 very end of the movie.
But
And
don't
so
you
you
think
have
that's more psychological?
it is psychological, but in the fact that there's even in Bram Stoker's Dracula, you're not seeing people die.
Is
Mm.
that the one with Winona Ryder in it?
No, this Bram Stoker's Dracula was it was like an older film. They did a remake, and that one did have a little bit of gore, but it wasn't. I mean, not like Bram Stoker's because I mean, literally it was black and white, and they just back then that you didn't show that kind of stuff.
Right. I love
You
anything
know.
that has vampires, werewolves, or zombies.
Oh
I
God,
love
I
those.
have a couple movies for you. But you know,
I always root for the vampires. I always have this huge empathy for the vampires and for the werewolves. I mean, they don't have it as easy as people think they do. They just don't.
they don't.
They don't, and it always, even as a child, I always thought, you know what? If you're a vampire, you're eventually going to go crazy because how do you love? Because they always have a love. They always love somebody, no matter how vicious they are. And how do you lose so many people that you love without eventually losing your mind over, years and centuries, So that always troubled me.
Have you ever seen Underworld?
Love it. I love
Okay,
it.
so I have a story. I have a story. I was at SIGGRAPH, which is a big graphics design conference and so on and so forth. And I was having lunch with this girl, and she had her big notebook out, and she was drawing. And it looked like, just different clothing and, putting on different models and so on and so forth. And we got to talking, and she revealed to me that she was one of the costume designers on Underworld.
Ooh,
Okay.
good job.
And we had this amazing conversation. But anyway, and believe it or not, she says that's how she relieves stress, is she actually designs clothing. That's another story. But she was in New York, on kind of like a holiday. She was there seeing the sights and textile museums and doing all that kind of stuff. And she went into a local coffee company, and she was sitting there drawing. Okay. And it was like a kind of a very, very ornate kind of like Celtic knot design, so on and so forth. And she was just like, I really wasn't happy with it. It was like, it's just kind of like just another one of my drawings. And she goes, someone like came behind me and was like ordering coffee, and he looked over and he saw my drawing, and he just grabbed the book out of my hand, and he goes, "Did you do this?" And she's like, yeah. She goes, I just drew it. She goes, and she said, I started saying, that I really didn't like it, that I wanted to change it. And he goes, you know what? This is perfect. This is perfect. Got on the phone. He goes, I can't remember the name that he said, but like, Brenda, get down here, at this address, blah, blah, blah. I had some stuff to show you. And so he hangs up, and he goes, how long can you stay? And so she was saying that she was recounting the story. She actually designed the jacket that became so famous at the beginning of the movie when she jumps off the building.
That's
Okay.
such a hot
She
look.
that that jacket was the exact replica of her drawing in that book.
Wow.
That is
That's
such a hot look. Oh my
I know,
God.
isn't it? So anyway,
Oh,
I just thought I'd push that out there, that's what, I think that when you have a talent or an outlet, that's definitely a way to calm yourself.
hmm
And so, I mean, I'm an artist, so yeah, absolutely. For me, that's definitely a way that I get to just kind of chill out and, just be creative. I think that a lot of times I mean, having your own businesses and things like that, you get tied up in the, oh my God, I have to make sure that I, enter all this in QuickBooks, and I have to take care of the taxes, and I have to take care of advertising, and I have to take, and you get caught up into that, I literally have to plan some creative time. I mean, that's me. I just have to plan it. Lately here, I've been having a lot of, we'll call them health issues. And people are reminding me, you, number one, need to take care of yourself, and then that comes first. So I've been actually just like, if I feel inspiration come on, I put things aside and let myself be inspired for a little bit. And that regenerates me more than anything. So
Well, what's
that's my
weird for
thought.
me is that the things that I do to relax are also tied to what I do for a living. Like I love to people watch. I can sit for hours at like a restaurant or a late night diner and just watch people, listen to their conversations. Sometimes I'll interject myself into them. Sometimes they'll pull me into them. And lo and behold, of course, I get paid to do that as an investigator,
Mhm.
and that's how I do really well in a lot of my cases is I actually get involved personally when it's ethical and interact with people. I like creating ideas. And so I like working on my own company's brand and website and stuff. I find that fun. I mean, but at the same time, it stresses me out until I feel like I get it right.
Yeah.
So, or if I don't get to spend the time on it. So it's kind of a love-hate relationship for me. Um, oh, but I got to say one more thing while we're talking about horror. Don't the one with Winona Ryder and Gary, what's his face? Was that not a hot movie? I mean, the Dracula movie. What was his Gary's
Thanks.
last name? The
Very
yes,
thanks.
yes, and Winona Ryder between the two of them, and then when he was looking at her wearing that Victorian outfit with the cap, the hat, and the blue glasses, and just
Oh,
watching her from
yes,
the
yes, I
street.
remember now. Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Oh my God. And then they had the white wolf in there. I'm like, "Oh yeah, baby, I'm going with you. I'm going with you. I don't care." If this is what the devil looks like, I'm in trouble.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you said werewolves and vampires, and I show off my homosexuality, but I go, ooh, Twilight.
You know what? I love to watch the Twilight movies when I'm stressed and
Mm.
and I just want to veg out. And I didn't really like the movies that much the first time I saw them, but there's something comfortable about watching them. And I don't know, but I can watch them over and over and over, but I don't really love them. They're just comfortable. It's kind of like shoes that you like, but you don't want to wear them out in public.
I think that's because the character Belle is
Mm.
uh, is calm about everything. She finds out he's a vampire, and she's like, "Okay,
Okay.
you're a vampire." So she's not excitable.
She's annoying though. I just want to slap her sometimes. I was a, what was his name? Jacob? I was a Jacob, Team Jacob. I was Team Jacob. Dang, I like those muscles. I like that. When he cut his hair, I was heartbroken. Oh my God. Oh my God. Okay, so I got a guilty confession. You want to hear it?
Guilty confession.
Oh, I have been known to have a werewolf mask and require my lovers to wear that from time to time.
Oh my God, what a kink.
Okay. Well, you know what? That's not strange at all. So honestly,
Oh,
I don't think that's strange.
oh.
I think that, well, I mean, okay, so de-stress, I think that a healthy bedroom routine is very beneficial for relieving stress,
Mhm,
especially if you can have fun and you can have
mhm,
something that is a creative outlet, you know? I mean, I counsel people like counsel couples that, it's like, well, we're just not doing what we want to do in the bedroom anymore. And I was like, then you just need to do something different, something that, maybe it takes you to that, like kind of that area of like, okay, well, I'm not sure if I know or want to do this. Then point in fact, okay. A couple came to me and said, "Hey, listen, we're having some issues. we kind of want to put the spice back into it and so on and so forth. And I asked them, I was like, well, what did you used to do that, would kind of bring that spice, into the, the relationship? And they both said, well, we used to have fun getting in the back seat, going to a drive-in theater and kind of getting in the back
Ooh,
seat
I
and
like
just,
this couple.
and so but we kind of lost that. We kind of got older, blah, blah, so on and so forth. And we're like, and so, that's just not us. That's not us anymore. There's not a lot of drive-in theaters. Cars have gotten smaller, and so they made up all these excuses. And they're like, so can you think of anything that might, kind of work for us? And it just hit me. I had just talked to a friend of mine that actually does sex therapy. And there was a methodology that he started using called peekaboo therapy.
That's illegal, and you go to jail for that.
No, it's actually not. Okay. And not because you're doing anything necessarily in public or with each other or whatever. And you don't do it to expose yourself, like, to the public, but you go to places that your lover will know. Okay. Or has a remembrance of, okay. And you do a peekaboo. And it's not like a full on, here you go, but it's just a little hint, like just taking your shirt down over your shoulder, and then taking the picture so the person can see where you're at and where you're doing it. Okay. They started doing that, and they said that it was such an outlet to try to figure out where that person was, and that it felt so good to them to know that their partner was thinking about them.
Oh, yeah, I can get
Mhm.
that. That makes a lot of sense.
And so that led to them just kind of exploring the new things that kind of excited them, and kind of did a like kind of a built on the theme, you know? And so they took that and now they started an online album of the places they kiss.
Oh, how
Oh,
cute. I like
And
it.
so it went from like that peekaboo method to like, all the places that we kiss. And so they make it a point to go to some place and take a picture of themselves in that place kissing. So, I mean, but
that
then they
makes a
said
lot of
that,
sense to me, especially for men, because, you know, with the business that I have, I cannot tell you how many, because we don't do marital investigations anymore, but we did years ago. And I just got to where it bummed me out so much I quit doing them, and we switched to another genre, another niche, because men were so many cases we had, the men were involved with online pornography and everything. And I found it was like a 50-50 line where the men were like just visual and they needed the stimulation, but the wives were so offended by it. And and their whole thing is, why aren't I enough? Why aren't I enough? Well, you're not enough because you don't put your pictures up on the pornography side. If you did, he'd probably be looking at you, that type of thing. And then there was the other 50% where it, carried into affairs and stuff like that. But the women seduced him. It was like a lot of times friends, wives of friends and stuff, and they would seduce them with photographs. And I'm not mean that in a manipulative way, but it piqued their interest. It caught their attention with these photographs and stuff. So that makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense.
yeah. Well, and the biggest thing that also comes with that is acknowledgement. Men seek acknowledgement. They want to be told that they're doing a good job, that they've done something really, really nice. More marriages have been saved just by like practicing acknowledgement. You know, I have a story of a woman that came to me for some counseling, and she's like, "I've had it with my husband. I want to divorce him. I want out." And I was like, "Okay, so I mean, what do you want to do?" And she goes, "Well, I want to give it another chance, but I had no idea. I've tried everything." And I was like, "Have you tried acknowledging him?" She's like, "What, you mean saying thank you?" I was like, "No." I said, "Saying thank you is one thing. Acknowledging is completely and totally different." And so I took her through some exercises of what acknowledgement was. And so I asked her, I was like, "Okay, well," I was like, "I mean, what are some of the things that your husband used to do for you that he doesn't do anymore?" Okay. And she was like saying that, well, I remember telling him one time that, that my mother used to cut the crusts off of my, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and then cut them diagonally. And that made me so happy. And he did that for me for like one of my birthdays or Mother's Day or something like that. And she goes, I just thought that was amazing. And I said, have you ever acknowledged him for that? And she goes, no, I don't think I have. And she named 3 or 4 other things that she missed that her husband used to do. Okay. And I was like, so this is what I want you to do. I want you to take a week. And I was like, I just want you to acknowledge him just out of the blue, acknowledge him for those things. Okay. Just acknowledge him for those things. And she goes, okay. And so she went home and she started saying, baby, I just want to acknowledge something. There was that time that you cut the crust off of my peanut butter and jelly sandwich that you made me, and you thought it was something that was just, kind of quirky and funny. She goes, but I can't tell you how much that meant to me. And she goes, I just wanted to acknowledge that you did that.
Okay, this
And
won't wait. I'll carry on.
okay. So, but anyway, she's gone. Um, she thought of like 4 or 5 other things, and she's like, and I took and I acknowledged him for doing it. Not said thank you, just, hey, listen, I just want to point it out, you know?
When you did this, it made me feel this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, and so he felt acknowledged. He even said that. He says, I feel that, that you just bringing that up as a memory to me, that, thank you for that. So anyway, she comes back and she goes, I don't really see a change. I don't see anything going on. So she goes, I'm not sure if it's working, whatever. And I was like, I can guarantee you it's working. And she came back the next week and she's like, yeah, I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening. So the next week came, and she's like, I'm still practicing acknowledgement, so on and so forth. And after one of our sessions, the next day she had a horrible day at work, a horrible day at work. And she called her husband and said, listen, I'm just going to stop somewhere like after work and decompress because I don't want to bring this home. And he goes, hey, listen, just come home. Just come home. He says, we'll figure it out when you get home. And she said that she came through the front door, and her bathrobe and her slippers were hanging at the front door for her.
Wow.
And a note that said, just put these on and come to the living room. And she said, she goes, I did. I just followed the instructions and, got into my warm, comfy, bathrobe and my slippers and walked in. And she said that she sat down on the couch. Her favorite movie was
Oh,
playing on the television for her. Her favorite scented candle was lit. On the front of the table, on the coffee table, was her favorite wine in a wine glass, a peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with the crusts cut off diagonally. Okay. And he served her, I think it was like celery and peanut butter, like that from her childhood. Okay. And so that was like the dinner. Okay. That was there. And he said that, or she said that he brought over like, everything, like there was just like one thing after another. And she goes, and she said, I was thinking, there would be one thing, just one thing more that would just make this absolutely the perfect night. Okay. And she said, I didn't, I mean, I couldn't even express it. I was just in my thought process in my head. And she goes, when her husband came to sit down on the couch with her, okay, it was not about, the day. It wasn't about anything. He said, she said, what he said was, I'm here just for you. So whatever you need to say it. And she said, I just broke down in tears. And she goes, I cried for like a half hour. And he just leaned over and he tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, one more thing that might help you like de-stress. Got up, came back to the couch, and he had both of his hands behind his back. And he goes, choose left or right.
Mm.
And she's like, what? And he goes, choose left or right. Okay. And she goes, okay, left. Well, he brought in the little Ben and Jerry's cookies and cream ice cream. And she's like, oh my God, that's my favorite. And he goes, well, it's one of your favorites. And he, on the other hand, he brought out a thing. It was a different, like it was Breyers, I think. Breyers. It was the mint chocolate chip. And so he remembered that. Now, he didn't know that she was going to have a bad day or anything else like that. He had already planned all of this, all of this,
So yes,
because
acknowledging him did help.
it saved their marriage. It saved their marriage because then they started practicing it with each other and realized how much they were not communicating. And
Right.
so just taking and having that exchange, that little bit of an exchange brought a whole new communication way for them, to do stuff. I mean, she said, it just became effortless. She goes, we went back to the way we were when we were, first dating. We would talk about things that, just to talk about things.
Mhm.
And she goes, it went from that to, I mean, to us not communicating, and now all of a sudden it's back. And she goes, I realized that I had not been telling my husband any of the stuff that was going on in my life. And he didn't want to tell anything, tell what was going on in his life because he felt that I wasn't listening.
Um,
And so
Well,
that whole
Ashley,
acknowledge, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I have some lag time on with the rain, so I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're
It
fine. You're fine.
stopped. Ask me
But I
what I
mean,
just.
go ahead.
what'd you
What
do?
was that?
I had to go tell my husband something I appreciated that he did.
Aw,
Wouldn't wait. Wouldn't wait.
but sometimes that's the way it is. We wait and sometimes we shouldn't, you know?
No,
And
and you reminded me of that, and it's important. It is so important because especially when you have two introverts like Scott and I living together, we live in our head so much. And what we have found is that even if we don't talk about stuff, just staying in the room together makes a huge difference
Mhm.
because it's real easy for him to go off into his office, and it's real easy for me to go off in my office or go into the TV room and go our separate ways, and we don't feel a lack, but there is a lack there, but we don't know it until it gets really deep because we're so in our heads. So we have to make concerted efforts to stay energetically bonded, if nothing else,
right.
But when you talked about that, I'm like, I don't know if I ever did acknowledge. He planned a great birthday party for me one year. And I went in there and I asked him, did I ever tell you how great that was? He goes, yeah, you did. I said, well, did I ever tell you that this was great? This was great. This was great. He goes, no, you didn't. I said, well, I am now. I am now. And I also want to tell you, I see you when you make efforts,
Oh,
you know? And and I said, my commitment as of this moment today in this house is that I will start making the acknowledgments verbally instead of just thinking.
just thinking. But
You
right
know?
there, that's going to change, like it's going to change your relationship. And that's going to be a stress relief. It really is. Because he doesn't have to think anymore. Well, does she appreciate that? Or, and you can surprise him, but by saying something that you acknowledge him for that he might have even forgot about, but it still brings up that emotion that brings up that like, oh, that feels good.
Well, we
So
forget how powerful words are without going into a lot of detail. I had a huge spiritual experience. Dadgum, can y'all hear that thunder?
yeah.
Just shaking my house. I had a huge spiritual experience back in November around our anniversary, and it was overwhelming. It was so powerful. It was so wonderful. It was her just a wonderful experience, an enlightenment for me, but it was overwhelming, and it lasted about 8 hours,
Mhm.
and it was just overstimulating physically and even mentally. And the whole time, Scott just sat with me and held me and just kept saying, I hear you and I gotcha. I gotcha. And just, being held by him and him going, I got you. So it kept me grounded in my body because I kept leaving my body. I wasn't dying. I don't want to be overly dramatic, but it was an overwhelming experience. It really was. And the beauty of it is that it increased my relationship spiritually with my belief system, but it also improved my relationship with Scott. And it was so powerful that now just hearing the words in a movie or on a video where someone says, I got you, takes me right back. It's so strongly anchored into my subconscious that it takes me right back. I just talking about, I've got goosebumps. I've just got goosebumps talking about it. It was just profound. It was just, there's not a word that really describes it, really.
Well, you bring up an excellent point because, I feel that I think every person has a spiritual component, inside of them, whether they want to acknowledge it or not. But I think that people walk around with a lot of stress, that doesn't need to be there. And I've talked to Christian and pagan alike, and actually some Muslims, that the religion doesn't necessarily have things in place to relieve the stressors, but add more stress to your life.
They do. They don't add to the quality. They actually detract from the
Correct.
physical quality, the emotional quality, and the spiritual quality of their lives. That to me, that's a horrible, horrible situation.
Well, I mean, I told you about an experience I had in the hospital,
Mhm.
that um, through a religious experience, or a doctrine that this person followed, they couldn't follow their heart. And so I think that, I mean, now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that spirituality can't be a way for us to de-stress, because I use it all the time. Meditation and different, ways of doing things. People think that, I mean, I take and I do tapping. Okay. And this has actually been known. I mean, they use this in the military for PTSD patients. It's just taking and tapping on your clavicles and reassuring yourself, I'm still in my body. I'm still right here. I am still present. I am still like
You know
right
what that
there.
is, though, too? Do you know what you're doing right there? It's even beyond tapping. That is a TKM position
Yes.
right there that is aligning your electromagnetic fields through your body. If you go and start at your head first, right here, that will bring you into the spiritual connection that will help align the physical connection when you do that next.
Mhm.
Isn't that wonderful that we
I,
can
I
self heal
I
that way?
love this. I love this. And there are times that I use it. I mean, there are times that I've been sobbing, just because I can't handle it anymore. And, a friend showed me this and said, hey, listen, this is something that, I do, and I suffer from PTSD, and, it might help you. And I was thinking, tapping, not going to work. I'll tell you what, it works.
Well, one of the things that works is you're taking your right hand to your left side of your body and your left hand to the right side of your body. And that also helps to connect the neurons in your brain. So it's physical and it's electrical in your body.
Mhm.
I
I
can feel
like
that.
I I like to relax with my coffee in the morning.
Mm.
And I think that that's still the reason I still have one cup of coffee every day. But I just, I reflect on, well, what happened yesterday and how can I make it better today?
Well, I
That's
don't
a, yeah.
meditate in the traditional sense
No,
because anytime I lay down to meditate, I just go to sleep.
yeah.
But I do have one meditation uh that I listen to, and I can thank Gail Hudson for this. I went to a women's retreat not knowing any of these people years ago. And I just that I'm so spontaneous. I'm like, I saw it on Facebook. I'm gonna go. I'm a woman. And I signed up for this weekend retreat, didn't know any of these people, and they all were crazier than I was, but it was a blast. And she introduced us to this thing called the ribbon breathing meditation. And you can go and download it. You just Google it. And it is the most phenomenal thing I've ever heard in my life because it paints a picture. First of all, it uses the same strategy I use for grounding. It uses the same strategy basically, and it uses drums, and it has this great visualization of being grounded and what that looks like, and then getting connected to your higher power. And it uses all these wonderful sounds. There's jungle sounds, and there's water sounds, and drums, the drums, and this beautiful guitar thing going on. And it's about, I don't know, 30 minutes. And I can listen to that. And I'm going to tell you right now, I feel like I have been reborn and regenerated all at the same time. It is wonderful. And that's the only thing I ever listen to. Nothing else really moves me. And we have a I have a confession. I do Bible study on Wednesday nights, and the first thing they do is a guided meditation after the music. And I never listen to the guided meditation. I just things like that just don't work for me. And like hypnosis, a lot of people like to use hypnosis for relaxation. Okay. I actually do hypnosis. I'm actually very good at hypnosis, but I don't respond well to most hypnosis scripts or, tapes, because one of the first things that they'll do is like, picture yourself on a beach. Nope, not going there. You just lost me. I'm out the door. Beach is not my fun place. It's not my safe place. It's not my idea place. So it's all about making that connection. And I talk, because I do coaching like Matthew does. I talk to people and they like, I'm supposed to be doing this to relax, and it stresses me out. And I'm like, well, then quit doing it. Don't do it. Just because other people do it. My mother loves to sew, not me. I, I ain't doing it.
Well, I like to crochet. It's something about the tactile process of feeling the yarn.
Mm.
And so I will crochet little squares now for my kitchen. I mean, I used to make big things like blankets. And why are you saying?
Oh, because it is physically uncomfortable for me to even think about something like that. It makes my skin crawl. I have crochet. I learned to crochet, and I learned to knit. I used to do latch hook rugs, and all these wonderful things that people say, "Oh, it's a great hobby," and I relax. It becomes a project for me, and I cannot relax until the project is finished. And I can remember the last latch hook rug I made. I stayed up 2 days straight until I finished it. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
I'm never doing
goodness.
this again. This sucks. This is not fun. I don't enjoy it. Why am I doing this? And so Scott loves hobbies. Scott has all these wonderful hobbies. He does leather works, and he makes metal swords, and he does little wood things. And yeah, I mean, seriously, he does all kinds of stuff, and he's really good at it. He doesn't have enough time to do his little hobbies. And I just look at it and go, there's a project. There's a project. There's a project. Get it finished. Oh my God. And
Well, it's why I started painting.
Mm.
that would be another project.
No, it's relaxing because I take these pictures out of my mind and put it on a canvas.
Yeah, and it's not done until it's done, and that's a project. It's a project.
Now, I do have a question about that because Luann, I've never seen any of your paintings.
Oh, they're fabulous. Go
Oh,
get some.
well,
Go get some. Go get some. They're right over there. I know where you are in the house. Go get some.
I know where you're at, so you can go get some.
Well, they're right there. They're right there. I know where she is.
Well, I think I'm kind of like Luann is like I do stuff just to create, and I don't necessarily take it on as a project. Like I can differentiate.
Isn't that beautiful?
Oh my God, Luann.
And you believe that big painting came out of that little body?
I love that.
Go get another one. Go get another one. I want to see another one. I love other people's projects, but if you try to make me do it, oh my God, no. Now I
Well,
write.
what I was saying is that I don't take things on as a project. I just take things on as a release,
It
but oh
doesn't
my God,
release
those
me.
paintings are amazing.
Yeah. Isn't that pretty?
Luann, okay, why are you not putting these up on a website somewhere and selling them?
I wanted to just hang them on the wall. They're sitting in front of the fireplace. I'm like, would you just
Luann,
hang the damn things? I'm going over there today with a nail and and a hammer, and I'm going to hang them up for her because it's driving me nuts. See,
well,
that's
I'll tell
another
you what,
project that didn't get finished.
God, but Luann, those are beautiful.
Aren't they great?
This is something that I didn't know about Luann, so I'm excited to learn this, and I mean, learn that, like this is a talent that she has. I'm blown away. I love this.
Oh, look at that. Isn't that great?
Oh my gosh.
This is the way the sky looks in West Texas when there's a big thunderstorm rolling in. You have all this white at the bottom and all the dark at the top.
On top.
Yeah, yeah, you're right.
I love that.
I have over 32 books on Amazon, Matthew. Why do you think I have that many books on Amazon? Because I had to get them done.
Yeah. Well, it's a
I-
project. Yeah. I mean,
You know?
I can see that.
So my relaxation is nature, people watching, and sitting in the water. Whether it be a hot tub, a big bathtub, a river, clear water, sitting in that. I guess I'm a real boring person. I don't know. I think I'm boring.
Well, I mean, some people that's how they relax. I mean, I have a friend that he goes and he
My
swims
favorite.
laps. Heck yeah.
Isn't that great? And they're sitting on the floor, leaning against the fireplace. She won't hang. She won't hang them. She'll
Well,
get around to it.
you know what? I have to, I kind of have to empathize there because I have artwork sitting around my house that I haven't hung up yet either. And I've been in my apartment for about a year and a half.
Well, let me in
So
your house for about an hour and I will fix that for you because I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. Everything when we moved, I've moved several times. I'm like, anytime I moved, everything is put up in my house and in place and has a home within 48 hours of me moving into that
Oh,
that place.
God.
Yeah.
yeah, that's not me.
Yeah.
Can you say anal retentive?
I already know before I hit the house with the first box where everything's going. So it's just a matter of getting it out and putting it up. I know where it belongs. So,
Gotcha. Well,
and
some people have that gift. I don't.
my environment has to be calm. My environment has to be calm. And if it's not put up, that's chaos. And I don't do well with chaos. I just don't.
Well, we have decided that we're going to move. We're not going to stay here. So I don't feel compelled to hang anything.
Well, when you move, I will be over there the next day and we will hang everything.
And it will be up within 48 hours of the place that you
Yes.
moved to. So
Yes. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Yes, it will. Now, here's me hanging. Oh, that looks good. Nail, boom. Now, if Scott's hanging it, we have the laser beam out.
No.
And you said laser, and he has that out, and he's got it lined up, and and I'm like, no, just put the friggin' nail in. Boom. Well, it's crooked. We'll just put another nail next to it, and that'll even it out.
that's me. I get the laser. I have to know the center of the wall. I mean, I'm with Scott.
Yeah, that's the way Scott is. So I do have places where I cut corners and things like that. So, I'm not a perfectionist. I'm not. I just like order. There's a difference. So,
Well,
I
okay.
need to relax.
Go ahead.
I always played my piano. So I have this electronic one now that's not as half as much fun as regular piano. But that always made me relax.
Mhm.
I don't play
So,
piano.
I mean, does listening to music or is it actually playing music that helps you relax?
Both, because I enjoy when I was a teenager and angry, I would go in and pound on my TV, my uh, piano, and just make my own music,
Yeah.
Oh God.
and it
Oh
helps
God.
me get it out.
Oh God. I won't let them play piano music when I'm getting a massage because the piano is really a percussion instrument because you're pounding on something.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I cannot listen to percussion music if I'm trying to relax during a massage. So they have to turn the music off, or they have to find something that's a woodwind for me to
Yeah.
listen to it. You know, even guitar's borderline because you're still hitting something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mine has to be ambient sound. I mean, it can't be really percussive in any way, shape, or form. I mean, if you have wind and rain with like a
Oh yeah.
like an Indian flute, um,
Mhm.
um, um,
I like that.
I mean,
Yeah.
that really relaxes me. But then again, and I've always had this. I had a Russian. I was actually a Russian language major in college.
Get out of
And
town.
no, seriously, I was a Russian language major, and asked me to speak to you in Russian, not gonna be able to do it. I mean, I can read Cyrillic, but I mean, it's like, yeah, I mean, I just lost it all. I just really have just lost it all. But I had a professor that wanted us to be introduced to as many like Russian, you know, things as we possibly could. And had us, she just had a party. She had a party and she brought a whole bunch of Russian desserts.
Mm.
And she put on Russian composers. And she goes, I don't care if you
Oh,
like it or if you don't like it, but I want you to hear it. And I fell in love with
Mhm.
Tchaikovsky and
My
Rachmaninoff and
favorite.
Stravinsky. I mean, yeah, I
My
mean, some of those,
favorite.
oh my God, you know, Shostakovich is just my absolute, I mean,
and that's
you
some
know,
of the music I've played.
If I could only listen to one piece of music for the rest of my life, it would be Scheherazade.
mm,
Ah, yes.
I love that piece of music. Love, 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 love.
okay,
Okay, I have
well,
a Russian story for you. I have a Russian story.
okay.
This is during my single years. And I'm
Oh,
at a toga
Lord.
I'm at a toga party in Oaklawn. So I was one of the few females there, filling in the gaps. Okay. And there was a Russian guy that had just come over from Russia. He was a political seeking a political asylum, and he spoke English, but he had heavy Russian accent. And they had some real Russian vodka in the freezer, and he goes, "You never had anything like this." And I said, "I can drink anything, and I can drink anybody under the table." Okay, so we're slamming shots of vodka, and the last thing I remember that night, literally, is him going, "I'm riding home to Mama and say I met American woman who drinks vodka like Russian men." That's how he did it. Everything else is a blank after that. And so I wake up the next morning and my cute little roommate climbs in bed with me and goes, "I want you to watch this," and shoves in a VHS tape into the TV. And there I am trying to explain to this Russian man Southern culture in America. So I decide the best way to explain this to him is to talk about the book Gone with the Wind. And during the course of this, I start acting out the whole movie for him and decide that I'm hot. So I take off my blouse, I take off my bra, and I'm doing everything, including marching through Atlanta topless. I wish I still had that tape. I destroyed that tape. I think that tape would be fun now.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm just like getting a visual of you marching through the center of Georgia with just pasties.
There was no pasties, honey. There was
I,
no.
And
I'm
that's
trying
when
to
she was,
in my head, I'm trying to be modest here. I was like, I don't want to see her
No, my
nipples. I mean, so
artillery was straight out because I was young and they were nice and firm. My
they
artillery
were
straight
big.
out, and I could have put your eyeballs out.
my artillery was at full attention.
They were like bayonets.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Anyway, so Luann, what about
I was
aromatherapy?
re- oh well, wait a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Here's my closing statement. I was relaxed.
Well, probably when you had
Okay,
enough
okay.
vodka. I'm sorry, that was
You're so
awesome.
funny.
Well, I try. I like now. This relaxes me.
Yeah,
Talking to people, making people laugh, laughing at myself, laughing with myself, laughing because of myself and other
Yes.
people. but other people get offended when I laugh at them, so I have to be careful. But I find people very amusing, even when they're
Wow.
mad, and that relaxes me.
Well, I think that you need to learn to laugh at yourself. I
Oh
know
yeah.
for years I couldn't. But then when I
Oh,
learned to laugh at myself, it you kind of like later were like,
Well, let me ask you this question because I hear people say a lot of, well, I learned to laugh at myself. How? How did you learn to laugh at yourself? Because I've always been, kind of like one of those people that, I'm just like off the cuff. I've always been able to look at myself and go, yeah, that was stupid, Matthew, and then just move on with life. So I never really remember having to learn that. So how do you learn to laugh at yourself?
because I think that when you don't, I never did. So later, it's like you would do something, and the next week or the next day, you're like, I can't believe I did that. Why did I do that? What's wrong with me? And then you start laughing at yourself. Go ahead.
Yeah, go for
so
it.
with my coaching clients, they have a stick up their butt. What I tell them to do is to take the scenario that is really under their skin and put it into a black and white video or movie and pretend it's like Laurel and Hardy or something like that, and they're watching it in a movie theater and look for the comedy.
Mm.
Pretend it's not them. Take their person out of it, their personality out of it, their emotions out of it, and pretend they're watching a movie. And if they were describing that to someone, what would they describe as funny?
Uh-huh.
And
Mm.
I had really great success in helping people to learn to not have that stick up their butt. And it's very, very painless removing it by doing that.
Well, yeah, that's a great technique.
So people take themselves too seriously. They really do. And I have a lot of people point things out to me through the years, like, well, you're doing this and it's wrong. I'm like, okay, so what? Like I had a friend that my pronunciation is terrible on a lot of words. And the reason for that is that I taught myself to read, and I read lots of books with big words when I was little and never heard those words pronounced. And English is so effed up that it doesn't sound the way it looks. And so I mispronounce a lot of words in my life until someone corrects me. And I had a person that said they were my friend. I thought they were my friend. And they took great joy in correcting me with this. Well, Deborah, you said that wrong. It's actually blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, so what? And it just annoyed them that I didn't get upset because I said it wrong. I'm like, hey, I knew the word. That's the big deal. I knew the word. I used it correctly and I used the definition right. So what? And you got the point enough that you feel comfortable in correcting me. So who's the asshole here, me or you? you know?
Well, sometimes I forget the word I want to use. And it can be just a simple word or a big word. And somebody will say it. And I said, yes, thank you for helping me with the big words.
Yeah. Yeah,
So you have
exactly.
to laugh at yourself. I
Well,
couldn't even
remember
think
when
of
they used to take the movies and they would rate them and M was for mature? I
uh-huh.
remember the first time I said the word mature and I called it mature because it looked like nature. One letter off. And oh my gosh, I had a whole group. I mean, I was like in third grade and I had this whole group of adults laughing at me. And I remember thinking, they're laughing at me. And I was like, that's kind of cool. I wasn't embarrassed. I don't know why I wasn't embarrassed. So there's something wrong with my personality, I guess. But I wasn't embarrassed. But I had never heard, here's what's sad. I had never heard anyone in my life say that word. We did not have a
But
lot of people in our lives that talked with big words, you know. This is only a two-syllable word too. It's not real big.
well, I remember when John was young, because I never talked down to my kids or baby talk to them. Once they were two, they got talked to just like another person.
Yeah, me
And
too.
um, he was using, I guess, big words, what somebody thought for a 2-year old or 3-year old, or maybe he was 5 by that time. And they looked at him and go, "Do you know what that word means?" He would say, "Yeah, blah, 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 blah." And they would like, "Oh,
Oh,
okay."
Yeah. I had that with both my kids. And I remember one time Joshua came up to me and he was like 3. He goes, now, mother, I really don't appreciate you talking to me like I'm a little kid. And everybody around looked at me and I'm like, you're right. I shouldn't talk to you like you're a little kid. You're a small person.
Yeah.
And I won't do that again. And everybody's just looking at us like we've grown two heads, you know?
Right.
So I don't believe in baby talk. I don't.
Well, I'm glad that's my parents didn't do that, especially my mother. I mean, she was like, and she would always encourage me. I mean, I love books. I love reading. I love just, putting myself not only into stories, but also into research and, everything else like that, Um, I remember two schools that I went to, they wouldn't let me participate in the spelling bees because I would win. I mean, and yeah, it was just they're like, yeah, Matthew's not going to participate because he'd win. I was the kind of person that was always on the Scholastic book, highest reading list and so on and so forth. I mean, I had a teacher. I remember her name. I love her to death, Mrs. Peretti. But she challenged me. She goes, "I want you to read 500 books over the summer," and she goes, "I want you to come back and and I want you to bring a list." You know, and I was like, "Okay." And I went home and I told my mom that, and she just kind of laughed at me. And she goes, "Well, how are we going to make that happen?" And I'll tell you what, if I ever told my mother I want to go to the library to check out books, she was, "Get on your shoes, let's go." you
Yeah,
know,
I
and she
read a
would take
lot.
me, she would take me to the library. Okay. That particular challenge happened at the Hearst Public Library. Okay.
Wow.
And I'll tell you what, it was like freaking amazing. And if you want to go back, like back a ways, I was actually interviewed 3 times on their little closed channel, like television show, for not only the stuff that I was reading, but for like things that interested me, that I would bring up and I would talk about. And so, but yeah, I made the 500 bookmark, and one of those books was War and Peace.
Oh, I love that book. I love that
Okay.
book.
I was in 5th grade,
Mm-hmm. I read it in elementary
and
school too.
I brought it back in, and all of the teachers and everything like that. Mrs. Purdy said, "Well, what did you get out of this?" And I was able to tell her what I got out of it, and what I thought the best parts were, and what I thought the most interesting things were. And the people didn't believe it. It was like, "You're in 5th grade and you read War and Peace? Like, why?"
Yeah.
And I was like,
I
"Because I
didn't
could."
talk about it to people because I didn't like that kind of reaction. So I didn't tell people what I did. I
After that, I didn't.
I
After
think
that,
that's
I
why I'm
didn't
so
tell people that.
internalized. I think that's why I'm so internalized. But what's occurred to me is that you guys like to create, and you're both very creative in your businesses. I'm creative in my businesses. What I like to do is escape within
Hmm.
activity. Within activity, my two favorite thing, well, three favorite things, is to drive very fast and play loud music, which is really hard to do in Dallas now. I like to go to the movies where it's very dark. I don't like watching movies at home so much. I get up and down too much at home because I get distracted easily. But when I go to the movies, I can sit there the whole time in the dark, and Scott's looking around because people are talking and whatever. And I don't hear anything. I just I'm in the movie. I'm in it. And then my other thing is sitting in nature someplace and just really. And that's when my mind goes totally blank. I can go totally blank for an hour maximum. And that's how I relax.
You say that, and the memory that comes back to me is one of, and I'm going to say this, music and nature. Okay. And I remember this so vividly. I mean, just vividly. I went to New Mexico, and I was there for a conference, and I asked one of the ladies at the front desk of the hotel, like, if I just want to get away and I just, want to have some time that I'm just out and about. I was like, where would I go? And she said, well, there's a couple of different, ways that you can do this. And she told me of this little, uh, she called it a pull off of the main road, like to a sitting place. And I was like, a sitting place? And she goes, yeah. She goes, it's halfway up the mountain. She goes, you probably have like 3 or 4 cows that like interrupt you, when you're
Ah,
sitting. but it's free range. I mean, so the cows just have free range to do our, it was in the Cherokee Nation, I believe.
Uh,
Um, and so their laws state that we can't keep our cows penned up. They are allowed to go wherever. So I went there and it was like way out there. I mean, I God, it was way out there. And I did have to stop for some cows. And I found the place. I pulled in, and it was just like a place to park your car. And then I remember looking down at the end, and there was just an arrow, a blue arrow that was like pointing this. And so I kind of looked, and there's a little path. And so I followed this little path, and it took me up, like more farther up the mountain. Okay. And then there was this huge, like tree trunk. Okay, the thing was gone, but I was like, you know what, that would be a perfect place just to sit and meditate. Okay. Now, some people have not had this experience, just being away from sounds of the city, sounds of airplanes, sounds of everything. And I got to sit on this log, and it was just silence. It was silence. And I remember just kind of breathing and going into a meditative state. And then I just like, for all what I can explain is I heard the music of earth.
mm-hmm,
It
mm-hmm,
was just, there was a pulse that came from the tree.
mm-hmm.
There was a pulse that came from deep within, Mother Nature. And then it was highlighted by the birch trees, and the trees were just about ready to drop their leaves. And so they had this almost metallic clanky sound. And as that would blow through, yeah, I could hear the pines. I could hear, these tinkling, of the birds. And it was just like all these things. And then it would be accentuated, like every once in a while, you would hear a hawk.
Yeah. Yeah. See, to me, that's heaven. That's just
Ah,
heaven. I love that. The other place that you can have such an extraordinary experience, but you don't, it's hard to have enough time is in caves. I love going to
oh,
caves. And I've been to like probably 20, 30 different types of caves over 4 states and stuff. But because they're tours and different things, you don't get to sit and just be like I would like to. But not only is there music, if you pay attention, it's a vibration.
yeah.
And and the most extraordinary experience I had was at Carlsbad Caverns.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And I knew that cave when I went in there. I told Scott, I'm like, this is what we'll see up here. This is what we'll see up here. Look up here, you'll see this. And he's like, how do you know this? And I'm like, I don't know, but I
It's
do.
there.
It was just, all right. So we have not really covered our subject at all.
Actually, I think we
We
have.
did. How we relax.
Well, we didn't give people literally a list of things, so they'll have to come up with their own list of how they want to relax. And if you don't have a list, get one. You need to relax somehow or another. You can be lazy like me and do nothing, or you can have a hobby, or you can, you know, whatever. Sex is a good
Well,
relaxation. I don't know how anyone can argue with that one. So, self sex, couple sex. Group sex is not relaxing. I would not recommend group sex for
mm,
relaxation. There's too much going on there, too many arms and legs. You could get hit.
no. Well, I mean, and like I told you about the couple, it doesn't necessarily have to be about sex. It could be more about intimacy, finding out ways to be intimate with
Peekaboo.
your partner.
I'm going to do this all the time now. Peekaboo.
Peekaboo.
I like
But
my
you'd be
shoulders.
surprised. You would be so surprised at just that little gesture,
Let's
you know.
just show us your shoulders, Luann. I'm going to see your shoulders.
Me?
Yeah,
I don't
see
think
it.
you can see mine, can you?
I think shoulders are sexy.
They are.
I do. I do.
I think yours are sexy, but I guess I'm kind of weird that way.
Yeah, especially since you're gay.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, on a woman, the things that I look at are lips, and ears,
Here.
Yeah,
because I feel that they go together. If you
that
have
makes
these big
sense to
blown up
me.
lips and these tiny little ears,
You like
that
my
doesn't work
ear?
for me.
You like me?
Yeah.
You know what I don't want to look at though on people? Their feet. I do not like looking at their feet. I have I have seen maybe only 2 pair of feet in my life that I thought, well, those are attractive,
Hmm.
feet, but I love to have my feet rubbed. You want to get close to my heart, rub my feet. Yeah,
There you
but don't look at them. Actually,
go.
I have pretty attractive feet considering my age. I don't have any
I have a
bunions.
friend that is a foot model, and and I also have one that's a hand model. So
I did
she gets
hand
paid good
modeling in
money.
my 20s, but now they look old. So, all right, Luann, tell them where they can find you and your new brand and your new thing and your new whatever.
Yes, the URL is 3Ws, ancientherbalapothecary.com. And that's where you can see all my products. Or you can email me at Luann, Luann, at ancientherbalapothecary.com.
Yeah, and let me tell
Hey,
you what Luann did last weekend. This is so cool. We did it together, but it was really her. We worked at a party for a bunch of teen girls, and we did our essential oils that are customized. And we ask you these questions, and then we come up with a customization of different oils to help you relax or meditate or energize or sleep or whatever. And we did probably 15, 20 people that night. And I'm doing the paperwork, she's doing the mixing, and everyone loved their scent. Everyone was totally different. And every one of them says, this suits me. I mean,
Mhm.
she is just the mistress of oils. And I don't mean that in a
yeah.
sexual way.
Yeah.
Maybe I do. Maybe I do. I don't know.
So
Well,
Luann, have
I think one thing that makes it unique is that we did the questions together
hmm,
and kind of nailed what was missing in someone's life.
Yeah, well, let me tell you, we got to change one question on our questionnaire though, because this is our boomer coming out. Because one of the questions on there is that do you have more than 2 hours a day TV time? And everybody goes, we don't watch TV. And I'm like, okay, do you have 2 hours of screen time? Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's about 6 hours a day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. So we have to rephrase that. But anyway. All
Okay,
right,
so Luann,
Dr.
a
Pierce.
question about your company. Okay, because I got asked this question.
Uh-oh.
Can I contact Luann for a custom blend because I have certain medical issues, like
Yes.
for stuff that I can't put on my face? Does she do custom work?
Yes, I do.
Okay,
I actually did a tincture for a young lady in Houston, and she said, I need this for my son. And the herbalist I've been using is not working anymore. So can you do this?
okay.
So
So
I
how
said,
would I go
yes.
about how would that this person go about
Well, first
asking?
they need to email me,
Okay,
and then we can talk by phone. Um, the first time I consult with somebody, I'm not going to charge them. We're just
okay,
going to consult and find out what the problem is. You
So you
know,
get one free consultation.
so maybe there's something I make that I can just add to it or change something out because there's no preservatives. It's all organic. Um, if I have to use preservative, which sometimes you do if you infuse water into the product,
gotcha.
they're all natural preservatives,
Okay.
plant based.
Okay,
So
good to know. Well, I mean, I'll pass that information along because there are some, face serum that this person has that she's used a lot, and they just don't work for her because there's something in them that makes her break out, and she's like, I'm trying to get away from that.
yes,
So
and I make a face serum, so maybe it could be the preservative, it could be a plant that's in it. A
okay,
lot of the over the counter things they have made synthetic instead of the actual plant.
gotcha, gotcha. Okay, well, thanks for that. I appreciate that.
Everything I have from Luann is customized for me because I'm
Mm.
special.
Well, that you are very special.
All right, Dr. Pierce, talk about you.
You can reach me. My counseling practice is matthewapierce.com, and you can reach me at matthewapierce.com. My design company is Connections Design Studios, and you can get a hold of me at Matthew at Connection Design Studios.
All right. After a lot of soul searching and a lot of working with Dr. Pierce on my rebranding, I have opened up my spiritual coaching services again. And you can find out about that and handwriting therapy at deborahcollingrose.com. And I was going to sell my PI business and decided not to do that. So, Investigative Solutions Group, if you need to get facts and information for legal issues, due diligence, background checks. And of course, our sponsor, Miles of Smiles Events, inspired intuitive entertainment. And it will make everything about your event special, memorable, and unique. So milesofsmilesevents.com. And we're here at the Clearpoint Studios. And this is We're Talking Again. Watch out. And until we get crazy again, we'll see y'all next time.
Bye now.
Bye, Al.